question today. What is the sweet spot? The sweet spot. Now, if you have an answer, I'll take it. But I did ask 3 people before I came to make sure I would have some response to give you. But just in case you want to answer, what's the sweet spot? Raise your hand if you want to. Go ahead.
What's like the ideal? It could be like the ideal temperature.
The ideal temperature, which, as you can tell from my body, this is not the ideal temperature. Yes? Okay. Let me share some responses I've received. I was with a couple this week, Bob and Deborah. I officiated at their ceremony 25 years ago. And so I said to them in the company and the comfort of their home, what's the sweet spot? And Deborah did just like what you did. What do you mean? What's the context? I said, I don't care what the context is. When I say the sweet spot, what do you think of? And she said automatically, she said, well, the sweet spot is all the time I've been married to Bob.
Oh.
What a great answer, right? I looked at Bob, who went, and I said, Bob, your job from this day forevermore is to convince her that she was right with that answer. And Bob just, his face got red, and he didn't, he says, and he even said this, he says, I didn't know that. Because, they're still working on how to communicate with each other. She's living in sweet spot, he's wondering who she is. Then I looked at Bob and I said, Bob, tell me what you're thinking. I knew what he was thinking. And I said, tell me what you were thinking. He says, golf. And Bob is an avid golfer. He plays about a 6 handicap. He's a good golfer. He was professor of some sort of physical education at Virginia Commonwealth University. So he immediately said, well, wait a minute, I've got to say tennis. Tennis too, because there's a racket head, and there's a sweet spot right in the middle. You know that, right? And if the ball hits that sweet spot, it will really fly. If you're up on the top or bottom, you get different results. I am swimming now. I'm a marathoner, but I'm switching over to triathlons. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 5:30 in the morning, I'm in the pool. Now there's a lot of other people that they call masters. We're not masters at all. We're just old. So we get in there, and I realize that the older woman next to me, quite older, is swimming faster than me. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for an entire month. So I finally asked the instructor, I said, what in the world is going on? And she says, well, aren't you reading the book? What book? And there's a book called Total Immersion. If you want to know how to swim, this is the book. Everybody knows of it that's a swimmer. Total Immersion. It's a misnamed book because you're not totally immersed. Some of you is floating. And the sweet spot is a definition that when you can float easily with some of you out of the water, then you can swim. Me, I'm a sinker. I'm a little bit lean. I'm a little bit low on fat. And so when I lay on my back and I look for that sweet spot, my sweet spot's underneath the water. Not good. So I've learned to press my stomach in, lay my head back, and son of a gun, if my hips don't come up, I'm no longer a sinker. Because I've been practicing for a month now. I took off from swimming to go every single day, not with the old people, but later in the day where I can just float. And then I learned to turn my whole body sideways. Because if you knife through the water, there's less resistance. So I'm learning what the sweet spot is. And the sweet spot is a place of kind of the right temperature or the right balance or the right position. It's not just with swimming or golf or tennis. It can be with a violin or viola or piano. When Tim, where'd he go? When he plays, sometimes don't you see it and hear it? He just gets in the zone, we call it. Same thing when he's up here on the guitar. There's a time where he just, the wrong notes come out and he blends them right back in. And he's just in that sweet spot. Well, last week was Mother's Day, right? Did y'all celebrate across the way there? Well, I heard a sweet spot, and I wanted to share it with you. Anybody like country music here? I don't know whether Taiwanese people like country music. Yeah, thank you. Okay, Garth Brooks, does that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
Garth Brooks, really famous, but he took off for several years because he wanted to be with his children and his family. But he just came back. And the song that he came back with is entitled Mom. Listen to this.
Baby told God, hey, I'm kinda scared. Don't really know if I won't go down. From here it looks like a little blue ball, but that's a great big place, and I'm so small. Why can't I just stay here with you? Did I make you mad? Don't you want me to? And God said, oh child, of course I do. There's somebody special that's waiting for you. So hush now, baby, don't you cry, 'cause there's someone down there waiting whose only goal in life is making sure you're always gonna be alright. A loving angel, tender, tough and strong. Come on, child, it's time to meet your mom. Now when she's talking to you, make sure you listen close, 'cause she's gonna teach you everything you'll ever need to know. Like how to mind your manners, love and laugh and dream, and she'll put you on the path that'll bring you back to me. So hush now, little baby, don't you cry, 'cause there's someone down there waiting whose only goal in life is making sure you're always gonna be alright. A loving angel, tender, tough and strong. Come on, child, it's time to meet your mom.
Is that sweet? I don't know if you noticed, did you hear the baby? I didn't actually pray for that or anything. Thank you. I say it's a sweet spot because Garth Brooks, country western singer, seems to think that before that baby was with that mom, that baby was in heaven with God. And had a conversation with God saying, hey, do I really want to go down there? I'm pretty comfortable where I am with you. And God says, no, there's someone down there I want you to meet that's going to take care of you, and that's your mom. It reminded me of a story of a young family, 4-year-old girl, mom and dad, and they were just about to have a baby son. Have I told you this before? And so the little girl, 4-year-old, was so excited. Oh, I can't wait to have my baby brother. As a matter of fact, when he comes over to the hospital, can I spend some time with him in his crib, in his room, by myself? And mom was going, I don't think so. And dad's going, no. And she was so persistent that finally they went to their pediatrician and said, you got to hear what our daughter is telling us that she wants. And so the pediatrician heard, and he said to her, I think it would be okay. I know your daughter, she's tender. I know she's going to love her baby brother. But if I were you, I would do it after dinner. So that way, it would be dark outside, she could go into the room, but you could turn off all the lights in the house, and when she shuts the door to the room, you could crack the door and take a look. Because it would be dark, and you'd be able to see, right? So they say to the daughter, listen, tonight after dinner, that's what we're going to do. And you've never seen a daughter eat so fast. And may I be excused, she's down from the table, she's running. So are the parents. You know, turning off the dining room light, the kitchen light, hallway, little child goes in. They crack the door just to see her scamper up the side of the crib and flop on the inside of the crib and pick her baby brother up by the head and hold him gently with her face right in front of his. And she says, quick, tell me about God before you forget. As if the little 4-year-old knew that the baby had just been with God and that she had started to forget. Tell me about God before you forget. Theologically, by the way, this is very correct. The Bible says that God knew us before we were formed in the womb. God says that He knows the number of every hair on our head, knows the words before we speak them. Theologically, I got to go with Garth Brooks. That the baby, at least the spirit or the soul, is with God. And then God is the one who crafts this union and creates this child. The scriptures today were clear. They talk to me about a sweet spot. Not in tennis, not in golf, not in swimming, but in a relationship with God. There is a sweet spot that when you know Jesus is God's Son, who God sent down to us, if you know that, if you know who you are as a child of God, that you were with God before, and that God came down to be with you here, and that someday, like the song says, you'll go back to God, there is this sweet spot of faith and trust that God wills good for you, not bad. And the scripture said, the one who believes that you are a child of God overcomes the world. Now that's the part that stuck in my mind. Because honestly, the world takes withdrawals from me a lot. I mean, Monday, think back to your Monday, how'd that go? Withdrawal is what I got. People wanting something I couldn't provide. People needing something. People driving in my lane. So it's constant withdrawal. Unless I remember whose I am. I am a child of God, and the child of God overcomes the world. And so there's this peace that surrounds me, kind of like a bubble. And then I'm in the zone again. And no matter what happens outside that bubble, I'm okay. The movie, The Legend of Bagger Vance. Anybody see it? The Legend of Bagger Vance. If you take a look on the screen, the characters are this one fellow, Jonas. There he is right there. He's a young guy, played by Matt Damon, good-looking fellow. But he was, in his 18, 19, 20-year-old days, he was the best golfer in Savannah, Georgia. Unfortunately, World War I. So he went in, became a captain in the Army, and was traumatized, as so many soldiers were, because of all his division, he was the only one that survived. He came back out of the war a broken man. His golf, obviously not playing golf in war, so that game was gone, and he took to drink. And he just barely made it. Well, then came the rebuilding of America. And his former girlfriend, Adele, her parents had built a golf course. And to open the golf course, she came up with the idea to get the greatest golfers in the day to come and play a 4-round match. So Bobby Jones, best golfer of his time. Walter Hagen, best golfer of his time. And they needed a local hero, Jonas. Well, so Jonas is convinced to come on back and to play these two legends. He's there at nighttime trying to hit the golf ball, trying to get his swing back. The ball is going everywhere, anywhere but straight. So the day of the match shows up and Jonas gets a caddy, Bagger Vance, played by Will Smith. Now Bagger Vance is kind of a homespun, ordinary character. And so he hands the tee and ball to Mr. Jonas, and he says, hit it down the fairway. And on the first tee, Jonas hits the ball farther than Walter Hagen, the best of his day, and Bobby Jones. And everybody applauds, all of Savannah's there, and they walk down the fairway. From there on out, Jonas had no game whatsoever. He hit the ball left, he hit the ball right, 2 behind, 4 behind, 6 behind, 8 behind. It just got worse and worse and worse. More and more people began to go home, leave the golf course, and finally on the 18th tee box, Jonas is there, puts his ball down, and Bagger says, excuse me, Mr. Jonas, listen, see that pond over there to the left of the fairway? He says, yeah. He says, why don't you go ahead and aim for that pond? Put your ball in the water. He says, you've done played every other part of this course besides the water. Why don't you go ahead and just hit it there right away, right now, and then nobody will care anything about your game because you're so far behind. Then they'll all go home and you can go ahead and have some fun. Now the look on Jonas's face is like, are you kidding me? Are you on my side? Are you my caddy? And so he looks down the fairway, he looks back at Bagger Vance, takes a swing and hits the ball right into the pond. He closes the day a miraculous 12 strokes behind. 12 strokes. You don't make up 12 strokes. You just lose. Until Bagger Vance starts talking to Jonas. And he says, I've got to tell you something. He says, I've seen you play now for 18 holes. He says, you have stunk up this golf course. He says, but you don't have to. He says, why don't you remember who you were when you were golfing before the war? And he says, it was so long ago, Bagger, I can't remember. And he goes, no, it was just a moment ago. And for just a minute, Jonas, the young golfer, thinks back to who he was. Do you see the tie-in? Thinks back to who he was before he came down to this place. And you could just see him transforming when he remembered, hey, I had one of the best swings in Savannah, Georgia. Hey, I was the best. I won the Amateur Open. And all of a sudden, he says, Bagger, do you really think I can do it? He says, yeah, just remember who you were. It was just a moment ago. And he hits the ball, and of course, he starts making up ground. And before you know it, it's a tied match. And Bagger says, Mr. Jonah, I gotta go now. The match is not over. I gotta go now. And he says, but you're my caddy. Look how far we've come. And he says, you know everything you need to know. Just remember. You all, I say to you, same thing with us. Remember who we are. As Christians, we are the ones that overcome the world because we remember whose we are. We are a child of God. And as loving as this looks right here, can I just tell you to look and say, this is what it looks like to be held in the loving arms, not just of a mom, but of a God. Last night, I had the misfortune to be entered into a race. It was just a 5K, 3.1 miles. And I've been sick all week long. And so I tried to back off, saying, listen, I'm sick, it's not going to work. And my wife says, but you signed up. And the whole family is going. And we're all going to run. And it's for a charity, one that you like, the local hospital. So I said, oh my gosh. I said, all right, I will go, but I'm not going to race. I'm just going to go. So we get there, and there's a gob of people, hundreds and hundreds of people, 9 o'clock at night. And they all have this glow sticks on, and light up earrings and all this stuff. And there's supposed to be black lights on the course, and they really had done a good job trying to make this a glow event. So they said, okay, well, all the runners get behind the start line, and everybody started moving back. And then they said, well, the elite runners get in the front. And I'm thinking, the elite runners? Well, where did they come from? So I started looking to see who, were these elite Kenyans that had come in and were going to win this race or something. And as I was lining up, I was backing up because I thought, I'm not going to run, I'm not going to run, I'm not going to run. And then the woman next to me with her wheel, with her, what are those things? She has strollers. Oh my gosh. I was way up at the front, and she decided that she was far enough back, that this was where she was going to start. And I looked at her with this stroller thinking, you're going to be in the front of this pack? And I could not get behind her. My competitive edge came out. And so I stepped up a step. And then I looked at who I was next to, and I thought, I'm going to have to go a little bit further up front. Before you knew it, I was up with those greyhounds, those ones that were thin and slim, and they looked like they're going to race. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I got? And the gun went off. And I thought, I've got to run. So I started running. And after a mile, I realized I am really sick. why didn't I get behind the stroller woman? And so I started coughing. But at that point, I looked next to me, and there was this little boy, 4 years old, it looked like. I mean, he was just this tall, 4 feet tall. What is that, 6, 8 years old? And he's running around like it's nothing. And I thought, well, I got to keep up with him. So I kept running, and then I saw another fellow. And I must have been breathing very heavy, because he leans back as if to give me a high five. Like, come on, old man, you can do it. And I thought, my God, am I that bad off? So I had to pass him. And so I kept running, and I thought to myself, listen, it's been 2 miles, that's enough. Just stop, for God's sake. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, 2 miles are gone, there's only 1 left. I could do this. And right then I remembered, I'm a marathoner, for God's sake. This is only 3 miles. What am I hacking about? And I remembered, I said, wait a minute, settle down. So I started running the race. Just remembering, I've done this, I've trained. I realize I'm sick, but there's only 1 mile left. Well, to make a long story short, of course, I finished the thing. And then as we were standing around, I thought, wait a minute, my wife. I forgot my wife. And my son is a runner, and he had finished second. So I said, come on, let's go get her. And my other son's back there. So we run all the way back. I mean, she was laboring. So we get her, and we get him, and he goes, oh, I'm so tired. And we started encouraging him and telling him, no, you got this, you can do this. It is amazing what happens when you are encouraged by someone else. He picks up the pace. We all finish. And I said, well, let's go home. We have done our job. And they go, no, we think you won. And I go, no, I was like 15. No, you won in your age division. I said, who cares? And that boy that I was next to who gave me the high five, he came over to me at that point. He says, hey, I don't mean to be insensitive, but you're really fast. Exactly how old are you? And I thought to myself, we're staying. So I tell this story not because they gave me a medal and propped me up, but it is amazing what happened at that second mile mark when I remembered who I was. I thought, I can do this. I am a runner. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. When you remember you are a child of God, that God has formed you and has made you and prepared you and given you gifts, then you can use those gifts. Me, I'm a runner. I can run sick, I can run well, it doesn't really matter as long as I remember where I came from. So listen, tomorrow's going to be Monday, right? I'm telling you, the world will want to take a deposit from you, a withdrawal from you. Don't let it. Don't let it. Keep that peace. Be in that boat. Know who you are. Gracious Lord, thank you for this moment just to share, to remember, to remind all of us that you intend good for us, that you have given each of us gifts. Help us tomorrow, this afternoon, this week, to employ your gifts. Let your Spirit flow through us so that somebody will actually say to us, hey, you're pretty fast. Exactly how old are you? Help them to ask us, hey, you're pretty nice. Tell me why you're so nice. In Jesus' name we pray and say, Amen.